Welcome to Writers Not Writing, a show where I interview authors about the ways they procrastinate and highlight artists who are using their voices to push back against fascism. I'm Benjamin Gorman, your friendly author in exile, and the quiet guy behind the glass there is Doug the producer. I write novels and collections of poetry and stuff. Doug does his best to try to make me sound better. Welcome to Writers Not Writing. You're going to enjoy today's show. And if you want a little more, become a patron of my Patreon, and you'll get access to an ad-free version of the show with a bonus segment with each interviewee. Even free members get that, but let's keep that a secret.
If I take my time.
Hail and well met, readers and reviewers. I am very excited about this show. I have author J.L. Henker here. J.L. Henker, she, her, is a fantasy science fiction writer and host to the Women Fantasy Authors YouTube channel. She lives in Northern California with her wife Diane and their sassy tabby named Leo. She's also a fan of the Great British Baking Show and a passionate baker. When not writing or baking, she and her spouse spend a lot of time hiking in the North Bay's amazing country, state, and federal parks. Welcome. I'm very glad to have you here today. How's it going today?
Thank you, Ben. I'm so happy to be here. And I know that it's later for you, but I'm just starting my morning. So this is a great way to start my day.
Yes, and I apologize to the listeners if they hear any background noise. So we've got techs who've come out to fix our air conditioning, which the air conditioning, one of the greatest human inventions. And but because they're here repairing some holes they cut in the wall and that kind of thing, I brought all three dogs into this tiny little study. So hopefully the dogs right now they're just chilling, they're just glad to be here. So hopefully that there will be no noise. But if you hear any like sawing in the background, it's guys fixing holes in the ceiling. But yes, what 6:30 in the evening my time. It's what time where you are at? It's 9 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm fine with the dogs roaming about and jumping up and down. We're fine with animal intrusions in this house too.
Yes, if they were to actually jump up and be on camera, everybody loves that. But I think they'll just stay on the floor as big lumps of of fur and
Yeah.
enjoy our company. So I've been really excited to have you on to learn a little bit about how you began your journey to becoming an author. How did that start for you?
Well, I'll try to give you the short version. I'm a late bloomer. I didn't actually take this seriously till after I retired about 10 years ago. I've, dabbled since high school. I did technical writing as part of my career. And then as I was getting ready to retire, I started thinking, well, if you're going to do this, you better do this because, the clock's ticking. So I joined a writers group. And then when I actually retired, I had time to start working on the story idea that I've had for a while. And then, of course, I had no idea what I was doing. And then I started writing and realizing, oh, wait, there's the business side of it. And that's what you know so well. So it was quite a rude awakening. And it's taken me over the course of 10 years to get it together and finally get published. So it's been a great journey, but one that I wasn't expecting.
Well, and one of the marvelous things you do, which is both marketing. I mean, this is one of the things that I love about your work is you are recognizing that one of the best ways to market is to help others. And so you've started this podcast where you are doing, the quick reads and interviews with authors. Tell everybody about the Women in Sci-Fi podcasts that you do.
Yes. Yeah, it actually started by accident. I was actually to help a writer friend who was just starting out, didn't have a platform, and was publishing this book, which was an amazing book, and she had done a tremendous amount of research. So I said, well, why don't you just let me interview you, and then you will have a publicity piece for your website, et cetera, et cetera. And I enjoyed it so much, I thought, I think this is an idea. I love this. I love interviewing authors. So then I started reaching out to friends, and also you come across all kinds of great writers on the internet. I've interviewed some of your authors, so it just sort of expanded to that. And it's true. It's a great way for me to put myself out there, but also to help support indie and small press women fantasy authors.
I love that so much because I love that we're in an industry where helping others, where it's not competitive in this unhealthy way.
Yeah.
A reader out there can read your book and go, oh, that was wonderful. And it makes them more likely to read more. We are not in competition. And so we can help one another and in so doing help ourselves. There's a virtuous cycle to it. And I love all that. And I love the way that you have focused on women in a genre who have not, a genre that has historically not been friendly to women. And that was one of the reasons we got into, starting a small press in the first place is science fiction and fantasy have not always been hospitable to other voices. So how does that play out in the work that you've done as you've kind of found this market?
Well, I came at it thinking not only underrepresented writers, women of color, but also I wanted to focus on older authors because often, women like me, life, kids, whatever, you don't get a chance to really start being creative until after you retire or later in life. So I really, really wanted to give a voice to women that are over, say over 50, that are just now getting started on their writing journey. And I'm always looking for authors from underrepresented communities to come on my show. So I'm networking and looking around the internet. I just got back from BayCon, which happens in the South Bay over the 4th of July, and talked to some women there about coming on the show. And still, I have to say, man, especially I would say, especially within the Black and Hispanic community, there's not a lot of those authors aren't getting any airtime. It's really hard to even find work by those authors. So I'm constantly looking to do that and to invite them on my show.
Yeah, yeah. There is still this, certainly a racial bias in the business, and it comes from one of the things that I've discovered kind of over time is it comes from the fact that the gatekeepers tend to be cishet white guys, right? And so they're not consciously saying, "Oh, I'm being exclusive." They're saying, "Oh, this book reminds me of my college roommate." Yeah, because your college roommate was another cishet white guy. So,
Yeah.
becoming conscious of our biases and recognizing, oh, we're doing that, where we're preventing these amazing voices from being heard. But I think it's also important to recognize and kind of call out the ageism because there is this presumption in the business that if somebody hasn't broken out by the time they finish their MFA at the age of 23, they're never going to make money. And I think a lot of it is that financial aspect of going, who's going to be the big hit for us? I guess we need the next 23-year-old who's going to have, a long career and we're going to make a lot of money from them and not recognizing there are a lot of folks just getting their start at retirement.
Exactly. Well, that is why you and other small presses are so incredibly important because you're doing the heavy lifting in terms of getting out work by authors that will never have a chance with major publishing. And it's so great to know that there's so many of you out there that are doing exactly that, really, really expanding voices in the community. And also at Baycon, it was amazing to see how many LGBTQ authors were represented there at the various tables with different publishers or author collaboratives. I mean, it's that community has really stepped up and got their work out there.
Yes, and so many wonderful works. And what makes me hopeful is we're starting to see, for a long time, the LGBTQIA plus community had, robust publishing to an audience that was almost exclusively LGBTQIA plus, and
Oh,
that's a huge
oh,
shame.
that's,
And now we're finding more and more, straight folks
yeah,
intentionally, and this is the key, intentionally seeking out LGBTQIA voices. So
yeah.
please read the works by LGBTQIA plus folks, listeners, because you will recognize, even if you are not personally in that community, it's so much great work is being done
Good stuff, and the romance, if you like romance or whatever, however people are paired up, it's the same story. It's just that it's
yeah.
different pairings, but it's really the same story. It really has the same impact, it's the same joys and trials and everything. So I just think of, if the, straight people out there that are watching this could think about the queer community and our whole lives we've been reading love stories or stories about straight people. And now imagine, mixing in, flipping that. What
Right.
if
And
their whole life?
in my series that I've been writing, the main characters, it's a lesbian couple. And one of the great things about writing, whether it's LGBTQIA plus characters or characters of color is part of our job is to discover drama. And if we only write about the people with the most privilege, those are the people who have the least dramatic lives. And so you can
It's
tell a
so
story
true.
that's not about, trauma and misery and suffering, that's about Black joy, that's about, a positive LGBTQIA plus relationship, but also that relationship does always have this element of this is a relationship that some people would not approve of. And so it is inherently more dramatic and more interesting than this is exactly the relationship these two people's parents would push on them. That's not that is not as
Yeah, I
interesting.
agree. I think it just adds to the
Right?
richness of things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I started writing my novel, it's my novel Cave of Whispers is coming out this fall, hopefully, depending on who picks it up to publish it. And I started writing with no, I mean, even though I'm a lesbian, I had no intention to write to the lesbian community. I just started writing my fantasy novel, and this ended up with this relationship with a woman who ends up presenting as a man to be safe because she's running away from danger, and she's is inherently kind of masculine in her stature, and and then she meets another woman, and it just naturally evolved in my story. I didn't plan it, but it evolved naturally, and that's what I think is a good way to go, because
Yes.
I'm writing for everybody, and I just let the story tell itself as I'm typing. I don't plan, I'm a pantser, so it just sort of tells me what it want where it wants me to go.
Well, and that is, I mean, this is not a modern, this story's never, I mean, that's Shakespeare, right? Oh, and here is, this character who then, presents as masculine or as male for their own safety. And then the romance is then complicated by the fact that they are not being, their authentic self in the
And
world.
yeah, that
Then
the
we get
woman
the
doesn't know that it's
discovery. I
a
mean, this
woman that's, yeah, anyway, it's fun. It makes it
Shakespeare did
interesting.
this over and over, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful. Like and so getting beyond our kind of cultural limitations and realizing this is a very human story and it's a great story that deserves to be told. So I am excited, personally excited to read that. I think that's great.
Well, Ben, when I started this, I started my kernel of an idea over 10 years ago, and the story started writing itself. And I don't even remember knowing the word non-binary back then.
Mhm.
So this whole journey that we're on with, especially young people, of non-binary, gender fluid, and so now I end up having a character that fits into this category that I didn't even have a word for at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm
Which
really
is
happy to see
and
this
and
change.
that's an important thing for folks to realize as they are kind of going back through literature. There's this, phenomena of people saying, whether it's folks who are trans or whether it's folks who are neurodivergent, perceiving that as though it's new because the term hasn't been in their personal
Exactly.
vocabulary. And I love the memes that point out that like Pluto wasn't discovered until the 1880s and yet it existed. Like that rock was swirling around in space, whether we knew it or not. Like these communities have always been there. These individuals have always been there, and now we're acquiring language to describe what has existed before. And I think that's a positive rather than looking at that and saying because I didn't know this term, this community didn't exist. you know
Yeah, yeah. So here we go.
So, what is something I've been, meaning to have? It's great to have you on because I feel like through your work, you're actually actively doing important work in fighting back against a lot of what we're
Yes.
seeing in the news. And so, what is something that that you want to call people's attention to, where there are ways to push back that they can learn from?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because you sent the possible questions beforehand. And I think what I would like people to start paying attention to, obviously there's a lot to follow. And over here in the States, there's a lot of attention being given to the ICE raids and picking up immigrants, or even people that are here legally picking them up. And that is getting quite a bit of attention. I don't think there's getting as much attention to what's happening in the trans community, to the trans to children that are questioning and people that are questioning, and and also the threat to just the queer community in general. So I'd like people to expand their focus a little bit and realize that they're coming for us all.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, and I
And
know it's hard and we need to take breaks. We need to be joyful and have fun. At the same time, we need to keep our heads up out of the sand and be prepared. Be
And
prepared.
that's tough. I want to, scream at people back in the United States. You can be joyous as you are going out and standing in front of ice. Go stand in front of ice and dance there. Like
Dance.
you can
Hey,
do
yeah,
both, but you
yeah.
can't
Well,
just one or the
exactly.
other.
I think we are actually, I've been to quite a few protests, and not that I've stood in front of ICE. I haven't had to do that yet. Um,
Yet, right?
we are having a party. People are being encouraged and joyful. And when you look around and you see thousands of people out, and I live in a small town, and there were 7,000 people out at the last march. So, and people were doing that. There were people in costume, there were bubbles, people dancing, there were musicians, and I think that's a really, really good way to approach it.
Yeah, and I think the LGBTQIA plus community is more experienced in protesting and being joyous. A lot of folks who are outside of that community are like, I see a pride parade and it looks like everyone's happy. And they can't recognize that
It's
pride is a protest. Pride started with throwing bricks, and yet it can be joyous. And those two things can be in harmony. And so, the straight community, the white community needs to learn from the communities of color, from the LGBTQIA plus community. You can do both. You can fight back and stay sane. And that's hard, but it's worth learning.
Yeah, it's really important because it's so awful, as you know. It's just incredibly awful every day. And what I do is I try to, get the snippets of the news that I can to be aware. And then aside from, what we're talking writing, but aside from that, I'm out hiking, enjoying nature, and being reminded of the other things that are really important that are still here for us to enjoy.
Which is essential because otherwise you can lose sight of what you're fighting for, right? You
Absolutely.
have to live a life that says, okay, life and freedom exist. Let's fight for those things, right? And if you lose sight of nature, it makes it real hard to fight for nature. And so like it is absolutely part of living a full human existence is fighting for the freedom, but not forgetting what that freedom, why that's important. So yeah, those hikes are part of a resistance activity.
Living here in Northern California, I'm surrounded by so much beauty. And of course, I live in a very liberal area, which makes me feel safe. So I have a lot more freedom and privilege than many people do that might live in a city or be in an area that's not supported by community. So it's hard because each community is going to have to pull together. I mean, as a whole, we have to pull together, but the individual communities need to make sure that their communities are safe and as much as we can be in this environment. So it's as Hillary said, it takes a village. It's going to take a really big one to get us through this.
She was just totally raked over the coals for saying that, and she was absolutely right. And I wish people had realized, oh, that pattern of her being
Yeah,
criticized for saying something and being absolutely right would then repeat itself over and over and over. She was
yeah,
right. It takes a village, and that was not trite. That is true. And trying to deny people community is a tactic of fascism. So,
absolutely. Yes, that's
um,
very, very true. Try to keep all the segments separated. It's interesting because every day I have moments of horror and moments of hope.
yeah.
And some days I have a lot more hope than other days. And so it's I yeah, it's really important. The self-care thing is so important because that's an emotional roller coaster that we're going to be on for the next couple of years at least.
Yes.
So self-care, whatever you do, however you live your life, whatever your career, self-care is so important.
Yeah. Which reminds me, what is something that has been a kind of pop culture thing that's been helping you, maintain?
It's I don't do a lot with what we call pop culture, but I just realized as I was looking at my stack of stuff to read, I have all kinds of graphic novels. I
Okay.
love the superhero stories.
Yes.
And my birthday's coming up, and I asked my partner to take me to the Superman movie.
I
So
mean,
there,
that's that's hilarious you mentioned that because my I was asking my partner today, should we go see that tonight, which would be quite late, a very late showing. She's like tomorrow afternoon. So I am in the exact same
yeah,
boat. We are going tomorrow afternoon because talk about a great mental health story. Here's a story of somebody who is a genuinely good person who is an illegal immigrant who is just doing right
right.
by everyone around him and fighting the billionaires. And I'm like, this is the story we need right now.
Exactly. I just went, okay, so then my lifelong love of comics and superheroes makes a lot of sense because it speaks to values, it speaks to standing up for to the underdog, and the fact that of course the superheroes are doing superhero things, but I still think it inspires us as average people or whatever you want to say to know to aspire to do more
Yeah,
because we have so many examples of individual people doing great things to help change the future. So
right.
anyway, that's sort of my guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
And then the other is just disappearing into books, of course, reading.
Yeah, yeah, no, but I think one of the things that authors can take from the comic book model is so often we're presented a character who is amazing, which we should employ in every, you want your protagonist to be somebody that people want to spend time with, and then they are put in a situation that is hopeless. And so the stakes are just that much higher. Here's Superman who can do anything and he's going to lose. And then what is the value is, oh, wait, what makes, Superman, Spider-Man, whatever, heroic is even when they're going to lose, they keep trying. And that is the lesson we're going to need over the next 4 years is we don't know that we're going to win, but we can look to these, icons and say, hey, Superman has a lot more power than I do, and he kept trying when he knew he was going to lose. I can keep trying when we
Yeah.
don't know we can defeat fascism. Like this is a scary, overwhelming thing, but the value, that comes through those stories over and over is, yeah, but we can keep trying, and I love that. And so, yeah, comic books are a more dramatic version of that very same ethos that we need right now.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And my the rest of the time, my life is pretty much obviously I'm a writer, so I'm writing and doing the business side of things. And I also already said we're out in nature, and I also have a 4.5-year-old granddaughter. So that
Uh,
keeps my life is very busy. I'm
yes.
so surprised, Ben, at how busy I am in retirement. I thought, oh well, I'll do some writing, and my calendar is so full.
Oh, oh no, I'm right there with you. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be teaching. I'm going to be full-time publisher and author. Won't that be
Yeah.
relaxing? Oh no, I'm working 16
No, oh
hours.
no. And I can, yeah. And then you've moved to a new country. You've got to get settled. And how you have kids.
Adult children. I've got
I
my
know.
one
Okay, so they're
son's
not.
in college, and our kid here is 24, and
Okay, well
school too.
that's good, I guess.
Yes,
So
yes. No,
you're not running
they
around.
are not burdensome at all. They are, well, I mean, you've got a 4-year-old granddaughter. You know that, that's a lot of time, but at the same time, grandparenting is
Oh,
very
it's
rewarding. I'm trying not to pressure my, 21-year-old son too much, but I'm like, grandkids are great.
I know. I stayed in the background the whole time, and it took him a while to get pregnant, and so she's kind of a kind of a miracle baby. Anyway, now that she's here, it's like it's one of the best things in my life, and my life is very, very, very good in terms of the things that I have to do and the people that surround me. So I hope that it happens for you, and I know that you
Oh yeah.
will enjoy it as much as
I,
I do.
I say to my daughter all the time, like, I'm going to be a really good grandpa. No, no, not rushing you or anything, but I'm going to be, like I'm, there's some really good research that they did where research, they interviewed lots of people and they did longitudinal studies because there was this kind of assumption that people who have children are happier. And it turns out it is not true. Having children does not make you happier. It's just a precursor for having grandchildren, which does make you happier.
And I would vote for that. I'm not a biological parent. I married into my my family with my son, and so but it's just as good. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. No, you did it the right way.
I didn't have to go through all the pain of those years leading up to teenage and all of that, and so it I got the easy route.
Got the best part. Yep. Oh, that's grandkids. I'm very jealous, and I'm looking forward to that. Well, I've been excited to have you on as a fantasy author because one of the things we do on this show is this project called the Side Quest, where I'm
Yes.
working with authors and we're telling a story together. And so, where we left off in this side quest, we have our main character, Zill. She's an 11-year-old girl. Then we have Jesmar, a non-binary character, is a merchant who is, Zill has hitched a ride with Jesmar. And then they've come across in the course of their journey Banal and Wellfill. And they are kind of competing inventors who are trying to figure out some way to keep the terrors, who are these monsters that come out at night, at bay. And where we left off last week, they have been continuing on Jesmar's normal journey, and Jesmar, as a merchant, goes and visits the deep folk. And the deep folk have, they trade with the stone skins, who are the people who live on the surface. And what was a surprise to me that that came about naturally through this process is the one of the deep folk merchants came up and brought up another person, one of the other deep folk, to share this message that they wanted to get to the stone skins, which is that the way the stone skins are using magic is damaging magic, worldwide for everyone. And they are telling the stone skins that they are meeting, but the stone skins they're meeting don't have political power. These are not, they're not telling the king. They're just saying to the next deep folk they see, please spread the word. And so
Mm.
where we left off, the stone skins are then having to decide how are, what are we supposed to do with this? And they decide they're going to continue on their journey as they normally would, and they'll tell somebody in the next town who has more power. And that way the word can get back to kind of
Yeah.
authority figures. And that's where we left off is they've made this decision to continue to the next town of stone skins on the surface, do their normal trading, and try and get someone's attention. So, what happens next?
Oh my gosh, Ben. So they're in town, they're spreading the word, and they are just kind of the average folks. They don't really have power either. Um, it seems to me that somebody, somebody maybe are traveling together is going to have to get the courage to go to the king, go to the person in power.
Yeah. And if
And
it's a small town, go to the mayor's office,
well,
right?
yeah, or someplace, somebody, and try to make more noise about what's going on. And I'm wondering if there's something that the Stone Skins could do. They're taking a rather passive route. I'm wondering if they could combine them. So while they're going to meet with whoever's in authority, the Stone Skins could do something to make some noise. Can they rattle the earth? Can they create an earthquake? Can they do something to say, "Hey, time to wake up"? So I'm thinking of something a little more dramatic.
Yeah, and maybe that's because Jesmar and Zill don't have magic, or at least not that
Right. They don't.
that come across. But Banal and Wellfill, these inventors, maybe they could do something that gets people's attention.
Yeah,
And that
something,
could be a
something
good
that,
connection for them because before they'd always been at odds, right? But maybe they're now realizing we need to, so they show up in this town, they're trying to spread the word, nobody's listening to them. Jesmar is reluctant, I can imagine, because Jesmar is going, I just need to sell my stuff. I don't,
right, I just want to have a normal life, but
right. And so maybe then these inventors are like, but if we could get people's attention, then we could share the word. And who would be the person of the four of them that would then want to kind of go to the mayor directly?
poo, 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 poo. Oh, that's a good question. Well, the image that came into my mind was the Wizard of Oz and the crew of them. So they're lined up. Who we got? We've got Zibble, Jesmar, Banio. So they're going to go together and they're going to be shaking and quaking, much like the Wizard of Oz facing the man, the Oz, the big Oz. So I would like to see it be. not just one person, but their little new alliance going in there, but basically quaking,
Yeah.
be, being afraid, but know that they have to do something.
Yeah. Oh, so the four of them go.
Yeah, I would send all of them.
And do they go before their attempt to get the public's attention, or is that their first foray and it's unsuccessful, or do they get people's attention first and then go to see the mayor?
I think they should do what try to get people's attention, however they do that, talking, and then realize, oh, this is just not working. This is like we're wasting our time. We've got to do something else.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
and I like that because it fits very well with, especially the character of Banel, who the last time he tried to get a community's attention, there was a riot. And he
okay.
failed
So
miserably, and that's when Jesmar and Zil kind of rescued him.
and
This time he tries and gets nothing. People
yeah,
are just whatever, and
like yeah, exactly.
that's fitting with his character. Like he has not successfully been able to reach people, and
So
maybe
is
Wellfield,
he more is he
with
more of like the forceful one? He used to be, he has been more forceful in the past, and then it like created chaos.
yeah,
Maybe he can be the one that goes, "Oh, screw it. We're going. We
yeah,
are going. I don't care. Darn the consequences. I know I'm not
yeah.
supposed to swear, but
Or
darn the consequences. We're going to go do this."
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Okay, so that's an excellent place for us to leave off. So where
Okay,
we'll
good.
leave off is they have tried to get people's attention, they have failed, and now the four of them are marching on the mayor's palace, right? Where they're going to go try and get the attention of the mayor. Okay, that's an excellent place for us to leave off. So
Great. I
we're
love
going
it.
to
I
go
love
to
it.
our commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you what you've been daydreaming about lately. NotAPipe Publishing is excited to announce our huge summer sale. Everything on our online store is 25% off. Let's face it, it's hot. So read a great book in the shade, wear a new shirt to the barbecue, sport the merch, and save. Share this with all your bookish friends. bit.ly/NAP store. bit.ly/capital N, lowercase a, capital P, lowercase store. Fascist purges always begin with books. If you can't imagine a better future, you'll never fight for one.
At a time when oligarchs and politicians are trying to divide us, to scare us, to silence us, it's more important than ever to speak up, even when it sometimes feels like screaming into the void.
Celebrations of established foundations all of a sudden screeching, discordant, as the preachers become ignored by the God they adore, pathetic and
Anti-fascist
grasping,
literature is
and the
one way
mumbling
we
of
fight
their
back
lasting
against the
speech.
rising tide of hatred and ignorance that seeks to drown the sparks of empathy, community, and curiosity that are the birthright of all human beings.
And then maybe you understand. Never let them silence your voice. Never let them push you down. And never forget that your mommy loves you with every
Through our
fiber.
stories and poems, we articulate our love for each other, our desire for justice, our need for freedom, and our determination to make a stand.
The seductive depths of the ocean are more appealing than physical contact with either of them. A mental stream of David Attenborough narration carries her through the awkwardness. Here, the larger of the two apex
Volume 1,
predators
the Antifa Lit Journal, begins with Rachel A. Rosen's brilliant "What If We Kissed While Sinking a Billionaire's Yacht?" and takes the reader on a journey through rage, fear, and despair to a place of grace, hope, and motivation.
Fascists are like bindweed and blackberry in the garden. You can't eradicate them, but if you stay on top of your weeding, you can keep them from taking over.
By itself, it's not enough, but no single effort is. We must come together and embrace one another.
Media. The Enriquez kids came to my daycare until their dad got disappeared, Dolores said. Where were the signs and the singing when my brother died?
Protest, boycott, strike, demand your representatives do more, protect the vulnerable, and support the people who are fighting alongside you through their
The
art.
kind who sits comfortably where evil meets idiocy and drinks up what he's fed through tubes painted red like the doors of those they tell us are better off dead.
Back our Kickstarter and help us make the Antifa Lit Journal into the kind of community that will outlast the current fascist regime. Fight fascism with your voice while you still can.
So everyone, I'm here with JL Henker, and what have you been daydreaming about lately?
Daydreaming about. Wow. Well, it's actually, if I'm honest, I would say it's about travel.
Hmm.
I have a family in Hawaii, and I've been dreaming about finally getting to Europe. So that's probably my biggest daydream, or
Know a tour
escape.
guide. If you get out to Barcelona, I can show you
Yeah,
all.
and when I realized that you were in Barcelona, it made me realize how much I've looked at the pictures and heard the stories about Barcelona and dreamed of seeing the city. Normally, I'm interested in nature, like going out into the Alps or whatever, or being on a boat. But Barcelona is one of those cities that just seems like it should be a must visit.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably my biggest side daydream these days is what else do I want to see? Because I am not a kid anymore, and so I'm looking at my list of things that I really, really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, when you think about
Travel is a big
those
one.
natural sites that you want to see, what are some of those nature places that you're like, I need to
Oh,
check?
yes. Well, I was fortunate enough during the last couple of years to go to both Yellowstone and Alaska.
Ah,
And
yes.
I Alaska was a life-changing experience, and I really, really want to go back.
Yeah.
I also have not seen the Grand Tetons, which is south of Yellowstone, and so I'm looking at some of the bigger national parks. I'd like to get back to the Grand Canyon, which has been almost a lifetime ago that I was there. So I haven't been to Crater Lake, so these are the ones that are on my
Yeah.
list I'm thinking about. Now that's drivable, so
Yeah. Crater Lake, that's not too
that
far.
may be the
That's what,
next the
six
next
hours?
one.
That's doable.
Yeah, yeah. So the big ones are, when you go to places like Alaska and Yellowstone, and you have those expanses, which
Yes.
there's something about being out in wilderness and you're looking and you're seeing this incredible horizon, and there's nothing but you, well, maybe a few tourists,
Right.
and the animals and the sky. It's like it really does kind of expand your consciousness. And I'm not a traditional religious person by any means, but it almost makes you believe in God if
Right.
you understand that as a metaphor.
Yeah.
And it's so good for your mental health to get out and see, wow, this is gonna, no matter what we do, this is here and it's gonna be here. Even if we screw it up enough that we are gone, Alaska wilderness is going to be there. It's eternal, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's going
I
to
I remember when
evolve.
I went to Yellowstone, one of the things I was really struck by, so, you're driving along and all these Montana license plates say Big Sky Country. And I was like looking, at night going, oh, that's not hyperbole. That's not a joke. The sky really is larger here. It's amazing.
It is, it is. You look up, and of course, you don't have all the lights from the city to blot out the sky. So it's surreal.
Yeah, and you can see this
It's
band of
surreal.
Milky Way so clearly. You're seeing your galaxy. It's an amazing place. And the other, more cynical joke that I kept kind of making to myself was looking around, going, if I just take a picture in any direction in black and white, it's Ansel Adams. Like my whole life, I've gone, oh, Ansel Adams is incredibly talented.
I know,
No,
but
this is Ansel Adams everywhere.
I mean, he technically was good, but there was not a bad shot he could
There's
take,
no
right?
bad pictures. Like it's
Yeah,
that
been
I
there.
do love that. It's fantastic. Well, there are some shots. If you can make it out here to Spain and you do want to get out into nature, we're planning to go down to Malaga, and there is
Wow.
this bridge that they've built out over this canyon, and it's that same kind of.
I
I
think I
would be
should do
terrified
that.
because I'm very afraid of heights, but I want to go anyway. I'm gonna power through my fear of heights because the views from this bridge in the middle of this canyon are just breathtaking. And I have a feeling it's the same thing where it's like no picture could be bad from here.
You really will make sure you post pictures, even if your camera's shaking. You be sure and post some
Right.
pictures.
Yes, through my
Well, there's
shaky
one thing.
video, I am terrified, but yeah,
The
that
one thing that I haven't seen yet, which I hope to see at Alaska, I have not seen the Northern Lights yet.
me
So,
neither.
so I,
Yep, I've
I,
been to Alaska and just didn't have that luck. You've got a ton, and far more likely there. But it's also one thing that a lot of folks from the lower 48 don't realize is you don't get a lot of the great sky in Alaska because it's cloudy a
it's
lot of the time.
cloudy. We absolutely lucked out. We got to see Denali. We had sunny days. We had some rain too, but it was, we went there, like, we went through the Labor Day weekend and stayed the week after, and we just totally lucked out. It had rained all summer, and then the sky opened up for us. So
Oh,
I think my, angels were taking care of me.
yes. Oh, it is beautiful. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So what is something that is going on with your writing career where folks need to know this is an event they can connect with you there?
Okay, well, well, first of all, let me just say you can get all the information, all the links to the YouTube channel, et cetera, on my webpage, which is just simply jlhenker.com. And what's happening for me right now, which is really exciting, I just got back from Baycon and was speaking with the publisher that I had submitted my novel to. My prequel to the novel, Daughter of the Dispossessed, is actually published and available online. And also for a very short time, if you sign up for my email list, you can get a free copy, download a free
Oh,
copy.
that's cool.
Okay. So the novel that this is a prequel to um, is being considered by Water Dragon Publishing, which is an indie press in the Bay Area. And I hadn't heard, submitted in November and hadn't heard, and I went to speak to Michael, who I've spoken with several times over the years. And he said, well, uh, I've had it. The year has been just incredibly busy. I'm so far behind. He said, "Did you get a rejection letter?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, then you're still being considered." So
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
right.
I'll have a publisher hopefully this fall, and which will mean that the novel will come out probably after the first of the year. So that's my biggest news. And also, thanks to you, I've got my story in the first volume one of the Antifa Literature Journal. Yay!
So that was really, really.
That
You'll
incredible
appreciate this
cover.
today. We went out and got our pictures taken. They're going to do an article about us for El País, which is kind of like the New York Times of Spain. So that's very
Oh,
cool.
great,
And I
good.
made sure in
Yeah.
the picture to wear my hat. Folks who are watching on YouTube can see this, which is the logo for the Antifa Lit Journal
Yes.
Volume One.
Excellent.
So yes, that
Yeah,
was really cool to have you in there.
the book cover was so wonderful. And when I was at the conference, I was on an author panel and I had it proudly
Oh,
displayed. So
thank you.
we're getting you out there.
Yes, yes, that has been so rewarding, and it has been a surprise, the interest. Like so many authors were like, "Oh, good, a
I
chance to
want
share."
Well, it's a way, it's one way we feel like maybe we can do something. Words are so powerful, and the stories, of course, I haven't had time to read many of the stories in it besides mine, but the stories are so powerful, and people are wanting to find a way to do something.
Yeah.
And as a writer, what can you do? Well, you write a story.
Use our
You,
gifts, right? You use your
yeah,
voice, yes, and that's what we felt was what can we possibly do? Here's something where we've got the skills and the means as a publishing company to put this at work out into the world, and already people have started submitting for volume two, and that's been great to we were going to come up with some kind of theme, and I still have some ideas about a theme, but I'm like I don't even know if we need it. Maybe we'll get enough submissions, then we can choose the theme based on those, you know.
yeah, you might just get enough across the board that it will build itself. I don't have an idea yet, but I'm thinking about something to write, something I'd like to submit as well. But I
Oh
don't have the
yes.
story yet, but I'll keep working on it.
Please do. And folks who are listening, if you are an author, if you know an author who's looking for a publication opportunity, please let them know. The
Oh
Antifa
yeah,
Lit Journal Volume 2 will be coming out in November. And so if they can get their story in by, say, the end of August, I think we'll be in really good shape.
good.
Then we can get it all put together and spread the word. But yeah, that's been really cool to see people get excited about that.
Good. And you successfully crowdsourced it, right? You've got
Yes, yes, we did a
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter
Yeah.
and it funded, which was very rewarding, which means now we will be able to pay those authors a small advance, a little honorarium. But, I
Ex
would love to be able to pay them more, but it's nice to be able to recognize people's work. And the way we've always had to do it as a very small press is, we pay higher than average royalties on the back end, which
Right.
is, okay, with an anthology, that means you're getting a share of these royalties, which is next to nothing. And
Yeah.
so it's so nice to be able to say to folks, we crowdsourced it, we can send you a little thank you check for your work. So that I'm looking forward to
Brilliant.
that too.
Yeah, that's great. That's
So
great.
what is something that you have been looking forward to reading?
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to look at my notes, I oh I just read well, now I'm blanking out. Glennon Doyle. Sorry, I had to get her name. I just read Glennon Doyle, Love Warrior, which was amazing. And she has another book called Untamed, and she has a remarkable journey about being married and then being divorced and then coming out to be part of the LGBTQ plus community. And she's an amazing writer.
So
So
these are memoir?
it's yeah, it is a memoir.
Yeah.
It is. And she does other stuff too. I think they do what you might call self-help or inspirational writing too. But she's a remarkable woman, and she's definitely a outspoken advocate for our community.
Yeah, Glennon Doyle. Okay, I will put their name in the and links in the show notes. So folks who are
Yeah, please do.
on
Please
YouTube
do.
or listening on your podcast, just scroll down and you will see links right there to Glennon Doyle's work.
Yes.
And so I also wanted to ask you who would be, because you have worked with so many authors, well, who would be a recommendation of somebody I should have on this show?
Well, I could recommend a lot of indie authors, which I can happy to send you names. But the person that I wanted to promote was a Sonoma County author. Uh, Her name is Maya. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Kobabi, and she wrote Genderqueer, which is on the
Mm.
top 10 list of books most banned.
Oh,
It's
yes.
about, figuring out your sexuality, your gender. It's a remarkable, and it's done in graphic novel format. It's
Cool. Oh, yeah,
remarkable.
that's
And
great.
she, I don't know her personally, but she's a local author, and I think she would be incredible to talk about the book, how she wrote it, and what it's been like being on the top number one banned book in the country. And I
Yeah.
think she might be, think she might be amenable to coming on.
Yeah, well, and I'm on Publishing Professionals Against Book Bans, which is, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, are you in Authors Against Book Bans? Have you signed
Yes,
up for
I
that? Yeah, me
did.
too. And so that's something I think all authors out there, I recommend to you, please, join that group because we need to be standing up for one another in that way. But I'm also in the Publishing Professionals Against Book Bans side, and so maybe that would be a way to connect with her and help folks understand. For one thing, there's this misconception that having your book banned is good because it will lead to controversy and sales. Not true. Everybody on the publishing side will tell you it is so awful. The only people who think, oh, this might be good for me are the people who have so much privilege that they're not used to the harassment that comes with it. It is not that book bans are awful. They take many forms. And in fact, I'll post a link in the show notes when we have, there's an article that Publishing Professionals Against Book Bans wrote about what forms book bans can take, because it's not just,
Mm,
people burning books in a big pile.
right.
It's often a lot more subtle. It's one school board saying we're not going to carry this in our library or whatever, and that is really damaging. So yes, they would be a great person to have on to talk about what that experience has been like.
Right. It would. I would really, really like to hear her speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to thank some folks before we get to our sign off. Thanks to the artist Max Oakland, who reached out and provided one of his songs for our intro song, his song I Prefer the Dusk. Let Max know you like it by following him on Twitter at Max Oakland with three Ds. Thanks to the author Stephen E. Scribner. He's the author of the Tawn Fantasy series, and he also makes music under the name S. Eric Scribner. And so he gave us the song, a poem from the album Pianosphere, and we used that during the ad break. If you make music and you'd like your music featured on the show, I'd love to feature more listener music on the show. Thanks to Doug, the producer, for making the show sound good and taking the blame when it doesn't. And I cannot forget to mention Writers Not Writing is a production of NotAPipe Publishing. So please go to NotAPipePublishing.com, check out the amazing books written by writers who didn't procrastinate too much. If you like this show, rate and review it wherever you found it. And please check out Janet's, what's the first book, the prequel?
Daughter of the Dispossessed.
Daughter
And
of the
it's
Dispossessed.
on all major platforms as an ebook, and also you can order print copies as well.
And when
Or
you
just
finish
go to my
reading Daughter of
webpage
the
and it's
Dispossessed,
yeah.
rate and review. Click that fifth star. Just a
Please.
short, this was a wonderful read. Makes a big difference. You'll make Janet's day. So, please check that out. Similarly, for this show, click on that little thumbs up there an odd number of times. That would make a big difference for us. Janet, I want you to remember a few things as you enter into your week. Janet, what's your advice for everybody?
My advice for everybody, just in general, my advice for everybody is to be sure, I already mentioned, be sure to take good care of yourself. Show up where you can, when you can, and check on your neighbors. Be create the community that you need, and especially if you have people around you that are in communities that are in danger, at risk right now, please reach out and make sure that your friends and family and community are safe. And while you're doing it, be sure to dance and sing and have a good time, and just be there, be the person that you are, be the change, as they say, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes, nothing to add to that. Just to reiterate, while you're doing it, dance. Dancing's good.
Dance. Yes, dance. That's my thing. Whatever music you like, put it on really loud and dance.
Yep. Oh, that's perfect. Here's a tiny bit of our bonus segment. Become a member of my Patreon and you can get the whole thing with no ads.
So, for those of you that might be older thinking about writing something, I could tell you that it's scary and exciting, and you have to basically feel the fear and do it anyway, because your voice is important and the story that you have to tell is important. So, it's been it's been a wonderful journey, and I've had a lot of support. That's the other thing I'd like to let people know, that if you're starting something new, whether it's a writer or whatever, there's a whole community out there that's willing to provide you support, especially within the indie author community. What an incredible group of people.
Yeah.
And you can get help and guidance in whatever your path is forward. So I would encourage people to.
If I take my time.